Whoa. Well, it's March 5th, 2025. And last night, President Trump made a speech before Congress. And basically told Congress what he's been doing for the last two and a half, 2.5 months. Letting the people know what he's been doing, what he's been up to, what he's found, what he plans, fulfilling his promise to be transparent. There were some people at Congress that were. I remember one woman stood there with a sign that says, "This is not normal." Well, no, he never he never promised to be normal. He promised to shake up our government in a way that it's never been shook up before because there's a lot going wrong with it. There's a lot of problems with it. He run on a ticket to shake things up and make the government subservient to the people, not the people subservient to the government. That's not how it was designed. That's not how it should be. And there were some Democrats that walked out. Bernie Sanders said he wasn't going to be there, but they they saw him standing in the back, you know, kind of hiding himself, which that's to be figured. But there were some that walked out. They were there, and Trump said it in his speech. There is nothing he could have said up there that the Democrats would have cheered or clapped or anything. Absolutely nothing. They wouldn't even stand up and cheer for the 12-year-old boy who's who fought off cancer and his lifelong dream was to be a law enforcement officer. And Trump made it so that he actually is an honorary member of the Secret Service. And the Democrats just said couldn't even applaud him. That's the division that has come to in this country because Trump did it. We can't say that we approve of it. It shows. I'm not a betting man. I don't gamble, but the way the Democrats are acting, I don't know how any because there's people on that are you know purely Democrat. They've always been Democrat, but they can see right and wrong. I know some of them. They can see, you know, no, you shouldn't be acting like that, whether you're Democrat or Republican. And if there's enough people in the Democrat Party that are going to say no, no, now you're acting like children, and some of those Democrats should be voted out of office because that's what they're acting like. They're acting like children. The, there is you could tell they even had pre-made signs So they knew that they planned this beforehand. When Trump said he was going to speak to Congress, they said, "Well, we're just gonna we're gonna disrupt it." Even this little boy lives in a district that is represented by the one of the guys, one of the representatives that was basically ushered out of the out of the assembly. He was removed from the the Congress building, and he couldn't even applaud a boy from his own district being given an honor by the president of the United States. That's childish. If you're not going to play by my rules, I'm not going to play. No, you grow up. Right now, the Democrats are mad at it. It don't. It could Trump could bring out world peace, and they'd find something wrong with it. He could feed all the hunger in the world, and they'd find something wrong with it. He could cure cancer, like Biden said he was going to do. He could cure every disease known to man, and they'd find something wrong with it. They don't like the persona of the man that is in office that the American people, their constituents, voted for. They don't like his personality or the way he does things. So they're just going to be disruptive and install him every chance they can get, even though their own constituents, the American people, voted this man into office, said yes, his plan is the one that we want to go with. And the Democrats are saying, well, the American people are wrong. They voted for the wrong person. A majority of the people in the country voted the wrong way because it isn't my way. They're wrong. You these congressmen and senators and they got to get a grip on reality and realize who's working for who. They're only there because of their constituents, because they won the election. More people voted for them. I'm beginning to wonder why. Some of them have been in there for two, three, four terms. Why do they keep electing these children? Not physically children, but psychologically. They're children. They go to Washington and then they live in their bubble, live in their echo chamber and stand in a room together and say, I don't like this. Yep, yep, you're right, you're right. Oh, yep, yep, that's exactly, I believe the same thing. Well, what do your constituents say? What do the people that you were hired, and that's basically what the election was. You were hired to represent this group of people. What do they say? Not what do you want, what do they want? That's why you're called a representative. You represent the people who voted you into that office. And if a majority of the people say, we want this agenda, you don't stand there and say, well, you're all wrong. We should go this way. And they wonder why our government is so screwed up. I mean, I'll be honest. I was a Marine for 10 years and I got done watching I watched the entire speech. It was a good hour and a half, 2 hours long. At the end of that speech, I was feeling like I wanted to go and reenlist. I wanted to be part of this great, great journey that we're going on right now because it looks like everything that I signed up for in the first place. It was something that I could get behind and I could defend. It's been a while since I've felt like that. Well, probably since I was 18. But that was more, I looked at my family history of serving our country all the way back to the American Revolution. I felt it was my duty to serve my country because of what it meant to my family, you know, based on the past. Now, this time, I feel like I want to reenlist because of the future, because there's actually hope. This is going to be a fun ride, and I don't I don't know how long it'll last, but right now, looking at the Democrats, I don't see where they have anyone that they could put up against. Well, Trump is only in for one term. That's all he can serve. But behind him, you got people like J.D. Vance. You got people like Marco Rubio. You got people like the Florida governor, and they're not well with two different people. You can't say they're 100% on the same track, but they're pretty darn close. And I don't know who the Democrats would have to throw up against them because there's even Democrats now that are saying, "Yeah, we're going in the right direction now." They can look past, you know, the way Trump talks or the way he presents himself or the way he acts. They can look past that. They listen to what he says and watches what he does. And it all depends on the results. Is he doing what he said he was going to do? And he has been. And this time he isn't giving the Democrats the ability or the opportunity to throw any roadblocks in his way. He said, "This is what we're going to do," and then does it. He is not letting them sidetrack him like they did, like he did the first the first term as president. Yeah, this morning I was watching a show called Louder with Crowder. It's on Rumble. It's also on YouTube, but they've had a tendency to censor things that, or YouTube's had a tendency to censor some of their programs. So I get it on Rumble, and I can get the whole. It's usually an hour and a half, but sometimes on YouTube it's 45 minutes because they don't like what Crowder says, so they censor it. We can't play this on YouTube, you know. So I watch it on Rumble. But at the end of it, he he talked about this, and at the end he takes questions from his viewers. And today he had, after he got done talking about the speech and all that, it was predominantly about the speech because it was a great speech. It was probably the best I've heard in a long time. But one of his viewers asks, "Will we have more presidents that will be transparent about where tax money is going? Not to mention, everything else that goes on in government. There's some things that we have to keep quiet. They have to keep quiet about, you know, secret operations and stuff. If we're going into, get rid of a dictator, they have to keep quiet about that because it means people's lives. But as far as the government spending and where tax money is going, they asked, will we have more presidents that will be transparent about where tax money is going after Trump? Or will it go back to the status quo? And I felt uh, Crowder was very thoughtful on the issue, and what he says makes a lot of sense. He 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 said, first off, the future presidents, Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter which, they'll they'll want to go back to what the status quo was, where we keep all this spending, you know, don't let the right hand see what the left hand's doing. They'll want to go back to that because it gives them a lot of freedom. He said it depends on the results. If if the American people and how President Trump goes forward with it, said if Americans are happy with the transparency, it will be hard. They'll basically be setting a new status quo. Especially if Americans are happy with it, it'll be hard for Democrats or Republicans to go back to the way it was because American people are going to say, we like knowing where our money is being used because it's our money. It's the American people's money. And it'll basically set a new status quo where the government is transparent with us about who we're aiding, what we're doing, how we're affecting other people, because a lot of the stuff that Doge is finding out, it's it's mind numbing the amount of BS spending we were doing. And it depends on the effectiveness. How effective is Trump in guiding the country in the direction that the American people approve of, that they like? And ultimately, it will depend on the American people. If the American people like this new status quo, the American people have to stay vigilant, because that's what got us into the mess we were in before. Is we'd vote for our representatives or our senators or even the president, and then we'd say, okay, now you do your thing. And we never, I'm going to go over here and work my farm, or I'm going to go over here and man my store. I elected you to go do these things and go represent me. And then we just left it at that. And now people are starting to get a big awakening where what are we spending? You're taking my tax money, raising my taxes, adding more taxes to my income to fund this, to fund studies to change lab rats into homosexuals, to 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 put Sesame Street in Afghanistan. Oh, where? Who gave you the right? Who told you you should do that? Well, we voted on it. I didn't vote on it. Well, I represented you. Meanwhile, because they voted on it or they approved of it, some of them were getting kickbacks from these different programs. Well, there was a little chunk for me. That little chunk was probably one of my year's wages, but to him it was a little chunk. But we if we want to keep the good things we have now, we have to be vigilant. Being a citizen isn't just, you know, vote and forget. We used to have that in the military, fire and forget missiles. You just hit the button and it's already programmed where it's going to go. Fire and forget. Well, the government's not like that. You don't vote and forget. You have They have to be made accountable. One way to do that, I've said it numerous times. Term limits. You can only be you can only be a senator 3 terms. You can only be a representative 2 terms. Just like we do with the president. He can only be president for 2 terms. So if so they're kept accountable, and you're voted every 6 years or every 4 years or every 2 years. But that's one way to keep them accountable. Because otherwise, there's no telling what kind of stuff they'll find. Because as far as they're concerned, we gave them that money to do whatever they please. And that's not what the taxes were for. Taxes were designed to do America's bidding. What is good for each American citizen? Because each American citizen is paying those taxes. They have to be held accountable. They have to be transparent to the American people as to what is that money being spent on. But we've been complacent. So if we want this status quo to keep up, to stay status quo, it's up to us to hold their feet to the fire. Because they won't do it. You're talking to a body of people that vote for their own pay raises. But I thought that was it was Crowder's answer to the question was I thought it was very thoughtful. It was very concise, but it was very thoughtful. And he's right. It is dependent on us. We have if we like what's going on right now, especially when we're talking about tax cuts and everything else, if we like that, which I do, where I can bring home more of my paycheck, I don't know of any family that says no, no, I'd rather pay a little bit more. But we have to ultimately keep a watch on those that we send to Congress. We have to be vigilant. But that's what I saw in the news. Let me know if you noticed anything different than I did. If you like what I'm saying, give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. If you like the way I do these, let me know. You know, give me a comment. Subscribe. Um, like I said, I'm on YouTube and Rumble. And like I said, whether I go on TikTok or not, that will depend on what they plan to do with TikTok. I'd like to see it be American owned. That's my prerequisite. But then again, YouTube is American owned, and I don't agree with YouTube's way of doing things. But let me know what you think. Give me comments. Give me suggestions. Ask me questions. And I'll be waiting for them. So until then, Semper Fi.